Hello world, my name is Adrian Adams. I'm the owner, founder and managing director of We Care Homes C.I.C. Who are We Care Homes? We Care Homes are a social care provider who specialise in providing mindful social care to look after young people aged from 12 to 18. Outside of the robust and highly sought after residential support that we provide to our young people, we provide a number of services to other businesses and the community, ranging from consultation to high-level training and, most importantly, our in-house framework that we deliver on an outreach basis to numerous organisations and education institutions. Now, this program is called The Road to Damascus, and you'll be hearing much more about this young people rehabilitation program as the podcasts go on. Now, the name of today's podcast is called the We Care Homes Social Capital Podcast. Now, the term social capital refers to a individual, a group of individuals, or a group of organizations working together towards one overall objective. The overall objective that we have is to push forward the quality of supported living and social care throughout the capital, as well as highlighting some of the plights that our young people, both in and out of social care, go through. Now, the term capital with an OL refers to a building where law and legislation are changed and impacted. And we believe because of the residential nature of what we do, it was right to call our podcast the Social Capital Podcast, because we provide social capital both on a collaborative level as well as on a social care supported housing level. And we believe that it is our conversations like what we're about to have today and the other episodes that you'll witness that will inspire change and further improvement within the social care industry. So what's our aim? What's our goal? Our goal is to collaborate with innovative leading individuals and organizations throughout the community, throughout the city, throughout the country, to have important and inspiring and insightful and intimate conversations about what we can do as individuals and as organizations to further the quality of care that is being provided within the social care industry, as well as to shed light on some of the challenges that professionals and organizations are experiencing in the space. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the We Care Homes Social Capital Podcast.
Stay on the grind till I shine in the city where the youngest put their lives on the line. Hey, car man's way too down. Try man shake you down. All my life I grind and hustle.
Cool. Hello world, welcome to the We Care Homes Social Capital Podcast, episode 3. Thank you again for joining us. I've been working on my introductions, so today we've got a very, very special guest. He's a man of many skills and many talents. He's directed music videos for artists such as Sean Paul, Skepta, Chip. He also has a degree in business psychology and a PhD in social psychology. He's also an experienced researcher, clinical researcher at that. Ladies and gentlemen, my bro and good friend, Mr. Ben Leinster.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We're ready to walk out.
Yeah.
Thanks for introducing me, Adrian.
I'm sorry. We also have First Lady Denise
guys.
in the cut. Apologies. Round of applause.
Thank you.
Let me put you on the spot. Is there anything you'd like to say?
No, just happy to have you here today.
Yes.
And get into the topic today because it is quite a big one. I feel that it affects literally every, not even just human, animal, everybody. So I feel like today's going to be a really good episode to get into some of the things that you've been working on and what you've been doing and just share, obviously. So I'll hand it back over to Adrian.
You dealt with that very well. Dealt with that question very well. I'll give that to you. All right. So then, obviously, let me give it to you, Ben.
Yeah.
I mean, I've given you the extended introduction, but what do you do? Why don't you tell the ladies and gentlemen what it is that you do? Because sometimes
So what I currently do?
What you currently do and what you've done in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I currently I am a social psychologist. I feel I need to define that.
Yeah, go ahead.
What does that
Go
mean?
on.
I say
What is
it,
that?
and a lot of people
Yeah, of
then
course.
think that a lot of different things.
Yes.
So, social psychology is right in between psychology and sociology. So, sociology is looking at cultures and groups and people and society, and then psychology looks at the individual within that. What social psychology does is it bridges the two practices and says we look at how the individual is affected by the group and by wider society and culture and stuff like that. So that's what I do. I have my speciality is in urban music.
Okay.
I worked in urban music for over 10 years, mainly as a music video director, but I've also done music management as well. So that's kind of where I'm at kind of currently. And as you said, I'm a researcher. I'm not a clinical researcher.
Thank you for correcting me. on
Share,
that.
I think, you know what, that's a very, very good point. And I think maybe you should just share specifically what the difference is.
Between clinical.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, of course.
when most people think of a psychologist, you normally think of mental health, and then you normally think of kind of prescribing and stuff like that. So that would be a clinical psychologist. Clinical meaning medical or associated with the medical world. So they can prescribe medicines based on analysis that they make of the person. I don't have the ability to prescribe medicine. I look at kind of social issues and social practices and then put systems in place and procedures in place to help combat that. So that's, I don't deal with the medicine, but yeah. But,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you know what? Before we actually get into the systems that you put in place, just for the people to understand, like, how you've gone from the music side of things to where you are. Like, how does one go from directing music videos for these artists to now where you are today? You able to take us through that journey there?
I'm happy to. I mean, it actually starts with, so I'm from up north originally, but I grew up in Norfolk and went to a school there, where I met a close friend of mine who lived in Tottenham, who lived in MPK, and started working with him. He went to a recording studio one day. The guy needed a music video made.
I think we might as well just start saying some names. So, who was the friend from MPK? And who was
Wow, we say name dropping, yeah.
So Vertex was my friend. Vertex was part of a group called Marvel, with Double S and Shocker as well. So I used to manage Marvel, and on the side, me and Jeffrey used to Vertex. Drop his government into
It's all right, drop his government.
me and Vertex used to direct music videos together. So it all originally started with us doing an introduction video for Always Recording, which was a label based in North London. We did that. The guy liked it. But Bath, the boss of it, he liked it and brought us in. And then from that, we started doing Chipmunks videos. So we did Who Are You, stuff like that. Fortunately, kind of for us, at the same time, Chipmunk got signed to Sony. He then said, I want these two guys to direct my first signed video. So this was a bit of a jump up for us. We initially started doing hood videos, so kind of low budget, just in the ends type videos. This was one of our kind of first real big budgets. So we shot that to Sony were like, so it was a £35,000 budget or something like that. They were like, we're not giving that to two random 18-year-old lads. Like, that's
I can imagine.
we're not just putting that into their bank account. That's not happening. So we had to get signed to a production label for them to be happy for us to direct the video. So we got signed to what I would say like a more traditional production label called Davy Inc. So they do all types of adverts and videos and stuff like that. We worked with them for a while, and then we were headhunted by a urban-based production company called Luti Media, and then we started doing work with them. So so I've worked with kind of most people in the UK scene that are kind of 10 years ago. So I don't know, N-Dubs, Chipmunk, Skepta, Jay Sean Paul, Fuse ODG, Movado. So did quite a
So let me ask, like, at what point, working with all these artists, at what point do you decide to go back into the space of
education?
Education, yeah.
So interestingly, I actually dropped out of university. So I went to university when I was 18 to do film and video. With Vertex, he came and stayed with me. And we dropped out after 3 months, I think. I had a bit of an argument with my course leader. He said I'd never turn out to be anything. That was useless.
As they do.
But then within a year and a half, I had a #1 music video. So from my point of view,
You
I did all right.
Prove them wrong.
Yeah, I did all right with that. So it was then when I was 27.
Yeah.
So I kind of became a bit disillusioned with the music industry. I find it quite fake, to be honest. People just cared about what you were able to offer. They didn't like kind of genuine people and stuff like that. But I saw the impact that it was also having on young people and communities and stuff like that. So I kind of moved away from it, and I actually got into learning and development, so kind of building courses and training and stuff like that. And then I decided to get into business psychology. So I did an undergraduate degree at 27 in business psychology. And that was because when working with music videos, I understood the power that they had to kind of shape culture. And you work a lot on stereotypes. So I would get a brief from a label. They would say, we've got £40,000. We want a fun, happy, light-hearted video, summer video. Here's the song. Write a treatment. And then I have to kind of work out that artist, work out their fan base, and then work out the traits of that fan base and show it in the video. I'm just
so basically to make it to appeal to them.
Yeah. Sorry, can I put that over there? Sorry. My bad. Yeah, so we would get this budget, and then it was about shaping it to match the clientele, though. Obviously, if I'm doing a grime video, I'm going to have to make a slightly different appeal or design than I would when I shot a video for the Swedish X Factor winner. Yeah. Now, they're completely different styles because they're completely different fan bases. And kind of understanding that and the psychology behind it and humans and how we group and identify and stuff, I started to find really interesting. So then once I completed my business psychology degree, I then undertook a PhD in social psychology. With my thing was looking at how the relationship between music and identity in a black youth orientated culture. So normally the first question I get with that is obviously, I don't know if you guys had noticed.
we hadn't noticed. But now you brought it down.
Now you can see it in the light or what. So I'm white. So obviously the big question is kind of why am I looking at kind of black identity and black culture, and can I have a valid voice on that? Do I have a valid opinion? And it is something that I've wrestled with myself, whether. The term is white saviour complex that gets thrown about, these sorts of things. Am I just reinforcing racism and all these sorts of debates that I had? But the truth of it is that I'm a good storyteller. That's why I did music videos. Okay. I'm not making any answers. All I'm doing is telling a story. I'm just good at relaying other people's stories. So my thing isn't that I'm going in and saying this is how things should be or anything. What I'm trying to do is give a voice to the community, particularly in the academic world, because it's very, very underrepresented, of course, as a community within academia. Yet the media likes to throw out kind of these broad statements about drill music causes crime and
Yeah, and their contributions.
Yeah, when if you look at all of the research, there wouldn't be much to kind of support that. And so I wanted to kind of add to that argument. So I understand my position and my role. I'm not here to dictate or to say anything. I'm here to just be able to tell a story because of the skills that I've got. And that was as simple as it.
So how did you go about highlighting that then? What did you do?
In terms of
the impact that drill music has, or when you were studying that.
So I did a kind of what's called an ethnography, which is when you spend time with the people. So it's based from anthropology, and it's instead of kind of giving a questionnaire out or anything like that, you would spend time with the group. So for example, I wanted to look at a group of people, rather than going in, giving them one-to-one interviews and focus groups. I go in and I just spend 6 months with them, following them about wherever they go. the thing with this is you get a more natural story. You don't get people forcing answers within questionnaires and feeling away. You're able to kind of assess them over time. You're able to kind of judge how they are and stuff. So I did an ethnography in a recording studio. So it was to look at how people use music, to look at how conscious artists are in what they're creating and what they're adding to the community, and kind of the reasons behind it and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I did, and the results of that. I mean, from a more kind of basic level, just the headline that drill music causes crime. So there's a line saying demonic music leads to increase in youth murder. That was a headline in the Daily Mail.
Okay.
That's such an outrageous headline because it avoids all of the social reasons and social issues that are actually causing the problems and puts it back onto the culture to say, oh, well, you created that issue, therefore it's your thing, you deal with it.
Agreed.
I think Akala highlighted the best example to counteract that, which was the issue with Glasgow. So Glasgow had high levels of knife crime, but because everyone was predominantly white, they didn't look at it as a cultural issue, they looked at it as a social issue. So they went, there's single parent homes, there's drug addiction, there's all these things, and they put the resources in place to support that. Whereas the argument in the UK, and particularly in London, is that it's this community's creating its own issues.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't spill out,
We don't care.
that's basically it. And my research showed a lot of the young people felt like the only reason it's getting mentioned now is because it's gone into Essex, because it's gone into the white middle class communities. That's now why it's a concern. But SAS were talking about shooting man in the head from 15 years ago, and no one said anything. Yet now that the white kid says it, or now it's an issue. And so that's something that kind of I want to counteract with my research.
So, great point right now, yeah? So you're mentioning your research. Can you give us a bit more of what your research brought to surface that you can kind of share with us, especially with us being an organisation that provides support to young people that may face some issues and stuff like that as well, and our Road to Damascus programme as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I kind of like about your approach when talking with you was the use of other mediums to get to these young people and to get to their issues. And that's what I was quite conscious with my study, was I wanted to use music as a way to get in to learn about issues with young people and what was kind of affecting them. So I'm not so concerned about music as a sonic form. I don't care about how they make the beats or anything like that. It's kind of how they use that and stuff like that. So I really appreciated that, which is why I wanted to work quite closely with you guys on projects and stuff. I've forgotten the...
So basically, I'm just asking you, we'll get to that part there. So I'm asking you about your research. So you mentioned before that in regards to your research, where you compared it to basically like a headline, and then your research obviously contradicted exactly what that type of thing. What other things did your research bring to light for you?
So at the centre of my research is a theory called social identity theory, or the social identity approach. And essentially what this says is that people are driven by wanting to achieve a positive self-esteem. We call it positive distinctiveness, which is when we create an identity for ourselves. We create a purpose and an identity for ourselves, and we get self-esteem from that. What happens in society is that a lot of the group identities that people get their self-esteem from are being eroded. So particularly within London, we have a lot of the black identity is obviously has a lot of negative stereotyping from the media and stuff like that.
Agreed.
So that obviously then creates a negative self-esteem if you're to associate with that identity on a base level. We then employ identity management strategies. So these are ways that we cognitively change the parameters so that we still achieve positive self-esteem. So one thing that we might see is that the white community might be seen as more financially successful. So in order to kind of gain self-esteem, we change the parameters. So we're not measured by finance, we're measured by culture and richness and connections and relationships.
of course.
And the black community is better at that. So all right, you've got your city of London or whatever, but we've got love, we've got culture, we've got family and stuff like this. And so these are certain like things that we do. So my work kind of looks at different strategies that people do and that we're able to then employ in young people to help improve their self-esteem. But it relates to a lot of wider things. So we also compete with things that are relevant to us. So a lot of postcode wars.
Yeah.
The idea behind postcode wars is that I have a conflict with someone who's similar to me. So a lot of these young lads who are saying, oh, I'm G'd up, I'm gangster, they're not comparing themselves with Pablo Escobar.
Definitely not.
Because they're not gangster compared to him. But they are comparing themselves to the guy in the next estate who's, again, first generation, whose mum is almost identical, probably goes to the same church.
Pierce,
And because they're able to compete on that level. And so that's another thing that we do, that if the smaller group is not able to compete with the bigger group, it will split into smaller groups and then compete with each other. So we've seen the same thing in the church. So we had the Roman Catholic Church, and then we've had Protestantism. That wasn't as strong, so that splits down. So then we get Methodist, Baptist, So they can't. So Methodist has more issues with evangelical and stuff like this because they're compatible. Because they're able to compete, whereas you can't compete with Roman Catholics. It's so big. So the only way you can is if you group them all together and then say Protestant versus Catholic. That's the only way. So there's all these different kind of techniques that we do. So my work kind of looks at that, and in the future, I then want to build those into systems to help improve self-esteem in young people.
Okay.
So the other major thing that I think my research kind of showed is the concept of entrepreneurs of identity. So these are people within the community that have the ability to adapt the norms, values and behaviours of that community. So my work particularly looked at the role of the music artist within the community for shaping the beliefs of the community. So initially, even before my study, I believed that was obviously working in the music industry, that they were quite powerful. A lot of the phrases, the fashions,
heavy
everything
influence, heavy influence,
is from the artists. But one of the most interesting things about this is the symbiotic relationship. So symbiosis is where the two things are combined at once. They need each other to survive. And you have that with the artist and the fans. We kind of look at them as they're up there and they're down there, but the artist can only adapt the community in line with what the fans will accept. So particularly within the hip hop community, if Jay-Z tomorrow came out and said he was gay, it might cause him issues because the trait profile of hip hop doesn't include that, and it would be too far. But you get somebody else like Kanye, who still remains within the things, but he brought in a pink polo shirt. I've never seen Mandem wearing a pink polo shirt.
But he's wild, come on.
He is.
He's wild, and they accept his wildness. So it does also think about like the types of personalities that you have as an artist, or what.
I see.
But what you did say is that obviously it's what people or what your fans will accept.
Yes, and so
I get it.
Different fan bases, different profiles will have different abilities to move into different areas and stuff like that, based on that, and then that shapes the overall identity for the community. And moving on, so my thing is kind of looking at the power of those artists and kind of understanding how they can shape community. The one thing that I think is dangerous is the idea that then the police or councils could get Stormzy to do a song that says "put down the knives" or whatever.
Do you know what's so funny, actually? I don't know if you're going to remember this, but I know local authorities do try to infringe on I don't want to say infringe. I think the situation that we had was more of an infringement. But I do know that local authorities do try to have artists, specific artists, who do have like a greater community type of awareness and try to utilize them to be able to put certain messages out there. I don't know if you remember, but we were approached to, because we did some work with some artists, and we was approached to basically have those artists come to something. I don't want to say too much. Come to something, and they asked us to then push an agenda to these artists, because they knew that we were working with these artists and that we have really good community relationships with a lot of artists in our local communities. So they saw that, because we put some work out there, and they saw the affiliation, and then the local authorities contacted us and asked us to basically,
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, to basically push an agenda. But the agenda they were trying to push had nothing to do with. We knew for a fact it didn't align with what we stood for. It wouldn't align for what they stood for, but it aligned with the types of goals or the types of numbers that they're trying to achieve and stuff like that.
Yes.
So we then had to pull out from the work that we did with them to just continue doing what we do. So we kind of understand the agenda of like the community awareness and pushing artists to do certain things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that's quite a dangerous. I'm not a fan of it personally.
I understand it, but I do feel that it does depend on what the outcome, like I mentioned before, the outcome for us was something completely different, and our goals didn't align.
Yeah.
Their outcome is, and I understand it, because if I worked in the council, which I have worked in the council before, I know that there's certain targets that I want to push.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I stopped working with local authorities because the type of agendas and things I want to push out, and obviously I've done my research to say that I know these type of things can work and get the outcomes, but they don't like the approach that we may be taking. So I feel like working local authorities, you kind of put into a box, so you can't really do the most in getting those sort of things. There's no
But I feel like that's what's different about us though.
Yes,
because we are actually able to use our own approaches. We approach things and look at it from the perspective of our own lived experiences. And I believe that's why some of the stuff that you've done, especially amongst the research and the self-esteem stuff, has been so like imperative in terms of adjusting my approach to how we operate as an organization. If I switch it up a little bit gear wise, we obviously have worked together before on the book. So some of people that may not know,
share the book.
So the book is called The King's Catalyst.
Where's it available?
It's available on the We Care Homes website. You can purchase it, all the rest of that good stuff. But there's a part of the book where I have to talk about theory and I have to talk about Marxism. And at the time, I've done a lot of reading, but I didn't really understand it. I said, who do I know? I said, let me call my boy Ben. I called him, we're on the phone, and he's breaking stuff down for me in a way that I understand. And as he's breaking the stuff down, it's giving me a lot of material for the book and stuff like that. But then I was like, so what is it that you... Like, tell me more about what you're doing. And that's when he's talking about the self-esteem stuff and, you know, the link between that and music and stuff like that. And it was at that moment there that I said, you know what? We need to work together in the future. I don't know what, I don't know how at that time, but I said we need to work together. Obviously, where we are now, 2 years later, obviously we have designed how we're going to be working together. But in terms of the part of the self-esteem stuff, are you able to briefly like sort of summarize what you was doing with regards to that?
Yes, well, so what I observed was how important self-esteem was. And some of those things are built through so the breakdown of the community as a whole has given us a breakdown of a self-esteem system that we get from. So now it might only be our mum or our dad or a close family, whereas before it was auntie, uncle, everyone. You walked out onto the street, everybody was checking the kids, making sure they were in line, making sure they and it was community based. So we only have value through connections with others. So I might think I'm a funny guy, but if I walked into a room with well, it depends who you think is funny, but Kevin Hart, Jimmy Carr, or whatever,
you're way out of league.
I'm now not a funny guy anymore. So we only are who we are based on the comparison of who we are. If we all lived in isolation, we wouldn't be anyone. I wouldn't be Ben. I wouldn't have my identity because my identity is based on how I interact with people. And the isolation that modern world's creating is causing a lot of the mental health issues, a lot of the depression and stuff, because we're not getting that self-esteem from just even when you're just chilling with your friends and you're doing banter and you feel like you've got a value, you've got an importance in that group. You are someone in that group. So these are giving you they're seeing you. You're giving you recognition, and from that you get the self-esteem and you get the value. So this kind of breakdown is really sad, and a lot of the young people that you work with have these feelings of isolation. That's they might have been rejected by their parents, by their school, by their society, by their systems, or whatever. And this is where they're at, this feeling of isolation. So in order to achieve self-esteem, I talk about kind of love and lust as approaches to kind of life. So buying the new trainers or whatever is lust. I feel good for that 5 minutes when I'm walking and someone says, yeah, they're sick or whatever. But if I think about the day I spent with my niece and nephew, that fills me with love. And it's a feeling I can look back on, and it will create it in me. I can't recreate the feeling of buying that new shoe unless I buy a new shoe, another new shoe. But that I only have to think of my niece and nephew, and I feel like the feeling of love. And so that's what we have with these young people then, is that they've not got self-esteem, they feel isolated, so then they go and achieve the feelings in a lust manner. So that's materialism would be the obvious thing. It might be quick relationships, but how do you then fund materialism? Through crime. So, and all of this is just a sense of searching for self-worth and position in the world, and feeling like you're seen by the world. That's all they're doing. So anything to kind of just let them know that they are seen, that they do have value, that they do have a purpose, will radically improve that young person's life.
You see.
Lovely. So you taking it there when we're talking about self-esteem. As you know, one of our services is to provide accommodation and support to young people. Now, recent regulations are basically enforcing the support of mental health for our young people, more around the areas of suicide, what leads to suicide and self-harm, which we can clearly understand that self-esteem can contribute to those things. Now, one thing that I would mention is that access to professional mental health services is kind of tricky for many reasons. One of the reasons is because most of these services are voluntary. And when you associate the word mental health to it, young people ain't trying to deal with that. They ain't trying to connect to that. So for us, we've had to adapt a different approach or different approaches to support our young people in just generally, like you said, self-esteem, fill with your whole lust versus love, with different types of approaches. So one of the things we do music therapy. Big fan of that. And we feel that meets the needs of creative young people, especially when they feel like they've been isolated and can't get what they want to get out. Other ways are things through, may be like around more anger management, well, boxing, or it could be just like pushing a healthier lifestyle, like going to the gym. I don't know if it is for you, but sometimes going to the gym, the types of enzymes that you kind of, comes out of you when you go to the gym and the workout and stuff like that. So what I wanted to basically ask you is that aside from those type of things, what could you advise us, maybe from your research that you may have found, that we could use to support our young people in, I don't want to say non-traditional ways, but just, let's say, alternative?
Wait. Can we make this like less formal, please? Because
no.
He is working. What is he?
Okay, listen. Okay, all right. I just want him to understand. What I'm trying to say to you is that obviously we support our young people, but they don't want to deal with. I'm not going to swear or anything like that, but they don't want to deal with something that says mental health support services. They don't want to. So we can identify that they have certain needs, especially when it comes to self-esteem. But we can't diagnose them with depression or attention disorder or attachment disorder. We can't, but we can see these things because we work with them day in, day out. So what I'm asking my guy Ben here now, Adrian, is what things do you think we can put in place in our organizations or the services that we deliver to kind of help our young people even more? There's nothing wrong with, a bit of,
I hear you.
Researcher here, come on, I'm trying to get all the
Apologies.
all the gold stuff so we can, give it to our young people.
Yeah, I know, but everyone else is going to get it as well. I thought this was your secret. Like,
It was supposed to be.
Let's just hit them up
let's
just hit them up with I know you've got a lot of things in your pockets. So just hit us up with maybe like a one thing. Because think about it, like our target audience is everyone, especially young people and professionals, and what everyone can bring to the table. So if you could share something that could help other people in regards to putting something positive back into the community with what we already have.
Yeah. So for me, a big thing that I come across is PTSD.
Yeah, of course.
So in my research, one guy in particular who used the music studio quite openly spoke about it. His friend was shot in front of him when he was like 13, 14 or something like that. He says he goes to night every night. He cries. He's wet the bed. He's like a shivering wreck every single night. So he drinks and smokes up until 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's why. And then he writes. Well, I've never seen. I think he did 7 or 8 tracks in like 3 hours. I've never seen someone record that fast.
That's a serious work rate.
It was pain coming out. It weren't. This weren't. He weren't even trying to blow. It was just he needed that release. Yeah. So for me, definitely the music therapy is a great non-traditional approach, and it allows. If I particularly me as well, if I sit in a room opposite a young person with a desk in front of me and say, what is it that how does trauma affect you? And they're not saying nothing. Yeah. Like,
you're lucky you got him to sit across the table from you
exactly,
in the first place.
Exactly.
To be honest.
So you're not getting anywhere. If I say, "Oh, bro, write me an emotional track," like I'm using an example of another one or something, say, "Write me a track like this," he's gonna go, "All right, cool," and then he'll tell me it. And so that was a really fantastic way to kind of get in to people. One of the things that I'm really kind of keen on is the idea of, as I was saying before, that we don't have many group identities that we can be proud of. Yeah. So one of my things is to create a new group identity that they can be proud of. And one of the things that I'd kind of like to do is the Road to Damascus kind of identity. So RTD is the I don't want to say gang, but RTD is the gang.
No. Do you know what? It's very good that you said that, because there were points, and I believe Rachel will be able to concur, that when we were working with our young people, the last cohort, we just got them jackets done.
Yes. So
them jackets done, as soon as they saw it, it's like, yeah, this is our gang. We're part
yeah.
And then everybody in the school will be asking them, what's that from? What are you doing? You know what I mean? So it was good. But to be specific, because we want to be a bit more specific, there's 2 specific areas that we're going to be collaborating on.
Right, yes, sorry.
That's good, that's fine. So then obviously you've mentioned the Road to Damascus, which is our program, and obviously within the placements as well, within the houses as well. Yeah. Now remember, you always outlining to me that because you're not clinical, you don't give out medication, but you more assess the benefit or the outcome of that support that the young person received. Yeah. So say if it was like music therapy or whatever. Yeah. What would you recommend within the houses? What would you recommend for us to use in order to monitor the impactfulness of that intervention?
So that's the thing that I think is really kind of important, is that we can do the programs, which we absolutely should, but we then need to tell people that we've done the program and how successful it was. We need to make a voice of that. And you can only do that if you've got the data and the research to say, this is how good our course is. This is better than yours, because this is better than what the government's providing or what the local authorities are providing, because look at our results. And we can only do that through monitoring. So there's lots of different ways that you can do that. I mean, one of the things kind of in relation to my research is obviously that we've been talking about is self-esteem. So there's the Rosenberg self-esteem scale, which is 10 questions, which give you a score then to say what your self-esteem is. And as simple as kind of doing that at the beginning, doing that at the middle, and doing that at the end, and just saying, look, here we can see that there's been an improvement. Fingers crossed. There's been an improvement. Some of the other things that we're quite interested in is how young people perceive crime, what that actually looks like. How does a young person view a robbery? Do they consider it
it's okay if they're rich.
Yeah.
It's different. No, I understand. It's different. It's okay if they're rich, but it's not okay if it's somebody that's old and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Or, you know, those
and there's
type of
all little
different-
rules, kind of subtle little rules
Yeah.
that we kind of create around it. So it's kind of, but we always need to understand the people and the young people before we can make any change in the young people. If I don't understand them, I can't make any change. And that's the kind of the approach is to use systems and scales questionnaires to find out about the young people and then monitor them over time. And the reason that we do that is because we're always going to come back and improve the program. So we do the program, we look at the data, we say this was really effective. Maybe sorry, that made me laugh there. I don't know. Sorry, the focus groups were really effective, but the one-to-one interviews weren't as effective, or whatever the data.
So like the
kind of
keyword
shows.
sessions were impactful, but the group sessions weren't as impactful.
Yes, and then we can tailor then, and we can say, and maybe it allows a chance for the young people to say, I really enjoyed this, but I didn't enjoy this aspect of it, and we can tailor that, and we can always improve. And that's what it's about. It's about us getting better and better and better, so that in 10 years' time, we have a program that could be transported internationally around the world because of the foundations that we've built.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd really like to kind of build up and go.
Honestly, sounds amazing, because at the end of the day, as an organization, that speaks to our ethic. It speaks to our culture of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
We have exercises that we do within the placements that we believe are impactful, but then without being able to monitor how impactful it is, then how are we going to be able to show that? And what's the point of continuing something if it isn't impactful?
Yeah.
So I definitely agree. And this is the reason why, obviously, we've spoken about this in the past, but because the camera's here, we're just doing it like us. That's what it is. But then, that's what I definitely agree that it's going to be amazing to obviously bring that level of expertise into the houses, especially given that we're on the cusp of obviously opening in the next couple of months our children's home.
Yes,
you know,
our children's home.
Big up We Care then.
Well done.
That's in the pipeline.
Yeah.
But then obviously to be able to have access to your expertise in doing that, it's like we're able to put things in place and we're able to continually improve them.
Yeah.
And if they're not working well, we can monitor that. So I think that would be great. It'll be amazing.
I think from my point of view, the thing that really got me excited in kind of working with you was when we had that conversation about being realistic about the change. So not going up to these young people and going, don't do crime because it's naughty. It's like...
It's not a dictatorship. It's support on a journey, but just making them aware of if they turn left, where it can lead them to.
But on a realistic level, you're not going in and just going like, that's bad. You're going like...
Do you really want to do that?
Do you want to sit in a cell and cry? Like, is that what you want from your life, or do you want to make money and drive around in a nice car like you do in your like with your design and your
But
nice?
I don't drive in a nice car. I don't have a nice car. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know what he's on about.
The point is, and I think one of the things with Road to Damascus and the reason why the program is kind of different is because we start with the self-esteem and the emotional aspects, the emotional baggage they may be carrying before they can get to understand what they're capable of doing in the first place.
Yes.
So first they unravel the aspect, and obviously from our cohorts that we've had, a lot of the young people that we've worked with didn't even know they were carrying those things with them.
Yeah.
So that in itself is the first aspect of like, that's change in itself, because there's things that we probably don't know about ourselves until we sit in therapy at the age of 40, 50 years old. But then we're helping with young people at the ages of 16 going on to 20 to say like, okay, this is something that you're carrying and you don't realize. So, okay, so what can we do now to support you? What things do you think you need? And then we put those things in place. So that's why I like, we're really passionate about Road to Damascus, because it's complete like 360 on how we approach the young people and how we support them and what we get out of it. So our getting out of it is not making sure that they've completed a qualification or even finished the course. It's just the fact of that there's retention, that there's attitudes that they want to continue. There's ongoing support after the fact that we've dealt with them.
Yeah.
There's always parts of the time where you'll work with professionals or people that say they're going to help you to do this and whatever. Then when you really need them, you don't hear from them. Because even the other day, one of the young kids, I'm not going to say their names, they messaged asking for a tenner. So when I said, sorry, I haven't supported you for more than 2 years. What are you
talking
asking?
about my
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. I thought the one that doesn't live with us no more.
Yes. Come to find out, he had hollered Adrian just a few days ago to ask for the same £10.
Yeah. And I gave it to him.
And Adrian sent it. So, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. And we're going to talk about more about the reasons as to why we do this role when we have our next episode, when it's all 100%. The girls of We Care Homes.
100%. What I would say there is, before we close, on the actual program, obviously you're going to be helping us to be able to view and monitor the impacts of the program as well. Yeah. So we've already had this conversation in the past. We're doing it officially because the cameras is here. Obviously, we're doing the stuff in the houses. But with regards to the actual Road to Damascus program, I just want to say the reason why I believe your involvement is so essential is because, like you've said, the only way for us to monitor the impactfulness of what we've done and get a legacy and obviously get people to sort of be more involved in it is to be able to monitor how impactful it is and the impact it's had on the young people and how it's improved their lives. So obviously you being involved in it and you being the researcher on the program, you'll be able to spend some time with these young people and monitor that. Can you briefly give an example of some of the techniques that we'll be using to monitor the impact of some of these things?
So from my point of view, there's different things that we're monitoring. So for the course's success, we'll use scales and questionnaires, and they'll give us quantitative answers, which is, they'll give us scores, so we can say the marked improvements and stuff like this. But really, that's for authorities, so that we can show them the improvement. From our personal point of view, the real monitoring comes through one-to-one sessions, so talking with the young people, focus groups where we get them in groups and get them to discuss, and then what we call participant observation, which is where essentially I stand in the corner of the room and just observe them as they go about their interactions and stuff like that to get that natural reaction and stuff like that. So they're the three main approaches. They're the qualitative approaches, and they give you the richness, they give you the information. So your quantitative might say their self-esteem has improved by 30% or whatever, and then the qualitative will say it's improved because they have more of a sense of and that gives us the data that we can actually use and be pragmatic about. So
amazing.
That's
amazing.
So and hopefully from that we can build and build.
We're gonna build. We're definitely gonna build. But that means just anybody who sees or hears about the Road to Damascus 7.0 in the near future will know.
This is what it was.
This is the level that we're operating at. This is how we're monitoring, and this is how we're going to ensure that the actual program has a legacy. So to conclude, obviously, I don't know. You mentioned Kanye West.
We use him as an example.
Cool.
To say.
I don't know about that
anybody
bit.
remembers. There's a part.
I'm not going to lie.
No, keep it in there. Keep it in there because it's relevant.
That's relevant. The one bit of the interview as I said it, I went.
No. You know what? It's cool. It's all good. There's a part on the Through the Wire video. Yeah. Stay with me here. I'm going somewhere.
If I remember the video, is that the one with Kim Kardashian sitting on the thing?
No. Through the Wire is when he's
the first one that Pharrell heard him in the studio and was like, so he's fire.
There's a part where Kanye, he's on the stage in Chicago and he's like, listen, I'm just being signed by Rockefeller, and Jay-Z gives him his chain. I don't know if anybody remember. You remember that? Cool. So obviously, true say Ben's, given that Ben is a new member of the team, I'd like to officially present Ben with his equivalent of the
Welcome to the team.
That's it. Please welcome our latest member of the team.
Thank you
very much.
Yes.
Our in-house social psychologist, Mr. Ben Leinster.
Do I got my name on the back?
If you want to.
Wow.
Okay, so
if you want it.
Before we conclude, is there any parting words that you'd like to give us after your first visit with us?
no, just I'm looking forward to working with you and achieving the goals.
Lovely.
Amazing. So,
Lovely.
ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a round of applause.
Thanks, Ben.